I'd like to introduce Lisanne Petracca, is the Doris Duke Conservation Fellow, graduating in Ecosystem Science and Conservation concentration. Her primary interests lie in conservation of the world's big cat species. She graduated from Tufts University in 2006 and spent 2 years after graduation serving as an English and science teacher in Marshall Islands. Her conservation fieldwork has taken her to Tanzania, Belize, Costa Rica, Australia, and the French Alps. She plans to spend the upcoming summer with jaguars in Belize and lions in South Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, your student speaker, Lisanne Petracca.
Thank you all. Before I begin, I just wanted to say my mom spent 16 hours in the emergency room yesterday at Duke University Hospital. Mom, I'm glad you're here and somewhat healthy. Hey. All right, so let's begin. We have exactly 950 days until the world ends. That's right. The ancient Mayan long count calendar comes to an abrupt end on the winter solstice, December 21st of 2012. It is at this time that the sun will align with the center of the Milky Way galaxy, the poles of the Earth will catastrophically shift, and every known natural disaster will befall the Earth. Right, Dean Schmiedes? He proved it. Anyway, now, believe me, I know exactly what you're thinking. The idea of the world ending in 2012 is a complete fabrication, just another means of inducing mass hysteria, the fodder for TV specials and really hilarious blockbuster movies. Did anyone see the film 2012? There's a great scene where there's giraffes getting transported through the Himalayas by helicopter. It's a great scene. I took all of this 2012 cynicism with me to southern Belize this summer, where I was at the helm of a jaguar conservation project. The project brought me to 40 remote villages in the far south of the country, where I had to conduct interviews on the presence of jaguars and jaguar prey species in the area. The vast majority of the people were Quechua and Mopanmaya, living in thatched huts and farming corn, rice, and beans. They worked from sunrise to sunset every day, and I greatly admired their work ethic and their openness to a stranger such as myself. So there I was, trekking through a village named Aguacate, when we came across a hut with a very old man inside. He was so old, I was amazed he wasn't a remarkably preserved specimen in the Museum of Natural History. It was amazing. Unfortunately, he did not speak English, so my co-investigator, Cordelia, took the lead on this specific interview. Everything went according to plan, but as we were leaving, he said something in a warning tone. I asked Cordelia to translate, and she said, "Oh, he said to watch out for the eagles." Clearly, I was as perplexed as ever and asked her to elaborate. Cordelia was a very proud Quechua Maya woman, and her face became very serious when she was explaining elements of her culture and her history. She had this face on now, so I knew a major story was coming my way. She said that there is an ancient belief that massive destruction will ultimately befall mankind on the wings of giant man-eating eagles. She said the fear was so great when her grandfather was younger that he and the other farmers would wear empty water jugs on their backs, so that if the eagle came down, it would get away with the water jug and leave them unharmed. She even said that 400 soldiers of the Guatemalan army are on standby, should this invasion ever come. You're probably wondering at this point where I'm going with this. My big question is, let's fast forward 950 days into the future, and you're minding your own business when you realize you are suddenly being carried away into the heavens by the gnarled talons of a giant eagle. It's very likely, by the way. What would be your biggest regret in that solitary moment? What is the one thing in life you would wish you had done differently? Because whether or not the apocalypse comes in the form of giant man-eating eagles is practically irrelevant. What matters is that all of us have been given an amazing opportunity to be alive in this crazy, exciting world of ours. My classmates and professors at the Nicholas School know that I am a bit different from your average person. And one thing that I strive for every day is to push the boundaries of what I can and cannot do, to take every opportunity to do something different, to truly feel alive. Because if I am being carried away by a giant eagle, or if I am mortally wounded by a policeman on a Segway, the last thing I would want to feel is regret. So maybe I'm slightly crazy, but some of my crazier decisions have led to some pretty spectacular moments. I have this fascination with far-off places, of throwing myself completely out of my comfort zone to challenge what I am truly capable of. And this drive brought me to the Marshall Islands, where I lived on an island as the only non-native, with only a half-working radio to let me communicate with the outside world. And that's where I spent the next 2 years of my life. That's where I learned to play the ukulele and paddle a traditional outrigger canoe and become advanced in a language that only 60,000 people in the world can speak. I taught my students how to spell English while rapping. I ate turtle eggs and barbecued dog. Dog is very good, by the way, it's surprising. And I often swam in the lagoon with some Marshallese friends, illuminated by nothing but the moon. And the Marshalls became my base to explore other areas of this part of the world, from the Federated States of Micronesia to Guam to Indonesia to Southeast Asia. It was truly a magical and transformative time in my life, and it all began with a single uncontrollable urge to just go for it. Now, I am certainly not alone in having such experiences. Our classmate Lindsay Peavy had a dream of going to Antarctica to study migratory marine megafauna, and she's now there, as we speak, tagging whales in the Antarctic seas. Josh Stoll had a vision of bringing together local fishermen to provide a sustainable supply of fish to the Research Triangle. And with that vision came Walking Fish, North Carolina's first community-supported fishery. And all its shares for spring 2010 were sold out. Shinsuke Kashikura funded his own way to Copenhagen and sat outside for hours, undeterred by the bitter cold, waiting in line to observe the COP15 climate negotiations. And her persistence paid off. Shinsuke was one of the lucky ones who got in. Kellen Shoecraft believes in the environmental and nutritional benefits of local foods, so she was the driving force in starting a farm-to-school program at a local elementary school. She also built the Nicholas School's very first compost bins. Maura Nowak heard that one of the ponds at the Duke Gardens was about to be dredged to create a sedimentation pond, so she enlisted the help of fellow students to trudge through the mud with her to relocate the resident turtle population, and they saved 11 turtles. And the thing is, I can go on and on and on, giving examples of how our passions, our inability to accept things as they are, can drive change in the world around us. And that is why it has been such a privilege to have spent the last 2 years with such a talented, driven, and intelligent group of young people. So it couldn't hurt for all of us to live life with a little more excitement, a little more ambition. I'm not saying you should all take up base jumping or feel the adrenaline of robbing a bank. What I mean is, if you want to take up the banjo, just do it. The Eagles are close on your heels. What I mean is, if you want to run a marathon, what better day to start training than today? But I do recommend that you tie a water jug to your back just in case. And if you've always wanted to start a vegetable garden, start one before the poles of the earth reverse, as Dean Shamides said, and all the vegetable gardens of the world spontaneously combust. So, while you are all busy being exciting and spontaneous, I will be back in Belize. I leave at 8:30 a.m. the day after tomorrow for the capital, and one of my main missions is to determine if the whole killer eagle thing was a vicious prank on the white girl. Thank you all, and congratulations to my fellow graduates.